Shabbat.
They have Shabbat?
Yeah. Get classes with the
Are all your children there?
You remember Paul when we learned this highway?
Yeah.
Very few.
Very few now.
Very few. There's like a basement down there, right?
Oh, you are on the first floor.
The first floor.
First floor, the store.
The store. Correct.
The store. Now it's a big bed.
Yeah. Oh, the shortish was the classes and Good morning, they said.
We'll leave a little early because I have to be last.
Baruch Hashem should always go to Smachot. Good morning. Eli, where are you, Eli?
Morning. I have to go to Bar Mitzvah this morning,
Baruch Hashem.
so I'm going to stay on as long as I can.
You are in Delia or where are you?
No, I'm in Brooklyn.
Very nice. And we are going to go back to the Rambam that we started maybe the second day. So open Rambam Sefer Zmanim, Chod Chanukah. We finished late today because of Kriyat HaTorah, because of the Hallel, some speeches. Let's read carefully again how the Rambam describes. What do you do and who does it? Let's look in Rambam Perek Dalet Melchot Chanukah. הלכה א', כמה נרות הוא מדליק בחנוכה? מצוותה שיהיה כל בית ובית, מדליק נר אחד. בין שהיו אנשי הבית מרובים, בין שלא היה בו אלא אדם אחד. זאת אומרת, the main mitzvah is one candle per a night per a house. והמהדר את המצווה, מדליק נרות, כמניין אנשי הבית, נר לכל אחד ואחד. So the מהדר is, I have 4 sons, so every night we'll have 5 single candles, every night, tonight. והמהדר יתר על זה, ועושה מצווה מן המובחר, נר לכל אחד ואחד בלילה הראשון, הוא מוסיף והולך בכל לילה ולילה נר אחד. So according to the Rambam, this is what the Ashkenazim do. So every night you have a candle for every family member, and this is part of the Hidur, Ketzah, the Rambam continues here, take it here. הלכה ב', פרק ד' הלכה ב'. Listen carefully what he's saying now. כיצד? הרי שהיו אנשי הבית 10, if there are 10 family members, בלילה הראשון מדליק 10 נרות. If you remember when we looked at it first time, מדליק, not מדליקים. מדליק, in a minute you'll see, the Baal HaBayit is lighting 10 individual candles with a separation between them. Only Baal HaBayit is lighting the 10, ובלילה השני 20, בלילה השלישי 30, עד שנמצא מדליק, בליל שמיני 80 נרות. The Rambam is very clear that the Hidur mitzvah is not like the Ashkenazim do, that every family member is lighting the Baal Bayit. So he said it 4 times, Madlik, Madlik, Madlik. The question is, what is the logic? What is the logic of the Rambam? The Rambam is teaching us something new about Hidur mitzvah. As we mentioned at the beginning of the week, Larry, if you remember, this Hidur is different than others in the sense that normally you add Hachlish mitzvah. We saw in the Shulchan Aruch Tav Resh Nun Vav. Here, the Chidush is you're doubling the mitzvah. Yes? But nevertheless, the Rambam is saying that not every family member, as the Ashkenazim are doing it, but the Baal Bayit is lighting. Let's say if last night and I have 4 sons, so I have 5 menorot. Each one is lit by me. Each one is lit by me. This is the Hidur. Fine. What is the base for that? Comes the Rav of Brizkin Sefer. Look, you have a Gemara Shabbat in front of you. Look in Gemara Shabbat, Daf Kuf Lamed Bet Amud Bet. Gemara Shabbat, Kuf Lamed Bet Amud Bet.
Does the Gemara or the Rambam, anybody measure Shamosh, or is that something relatively new?
It's not new, since the Gemara says, so, and in many homes, especially in the time of the Gemara or before electricity, if you have 4 candles in the room, they're lighting the room, you're not supposed to benefit from it. So this is why we added the Shamosh. The Shamosh is adding some light. So I'm using only an example, In certain shuls, and I think even here downstairs in Rabbi Lanyad's shul, I think, if a goy opens the light of Shabbat for you, you cannot benefit from it. This is straight Shulchan Aruch, there's no ifs and buts. You cannot benefit directly. So what do they do in certain shuls? You leave 2 lights overnight. Which means we have enough light. If you want, you can look at the siddur. That's very comfortable, right?
Is that the source of the net hamid that we show?
You see, here what it says, Paul says that maybe this is the source also. More money. I mean, normally you realize that Ner Tamid is Ner Tamid, but yours is much better. No, you what it says? It says if every shul has a Ner Tamid, so you have some type of a light, or at least in the summers, if you have windows, so you have already some light coming from outside. This is right now, in the winter, really, essentially, if you don't have automatic, you have to leave one light.
All the shows have promise.
Right. Today, everyone is on.
Mostly for energy. Mostly for energy saving.
Okay, look at the Gemara now. Tanu Rabbanan, the Gemara is about 10 slides from the top of the 2 dots. Kuf Lamed Gimel Amud Bet. And I said 2 dots, Kuf Lamed Gimel Amud Bet. Yes. So the Tanu Rabbanan, second line from the top. I look to Kuf Lamed Bet Amud Bet. Kuf Lamed Gimel Amud Bet 133b. Hamal, the Mohel. This is Shabbat. כל זמן שהוא עוסק במילה, חוזר בין על ציצים המעכבים את המילה, בין על הציצים שאין מעכבים את המילה. If you think for a second, yes, ברית מילה is חילול שבת. כתוב בפסוק, מצוות מילה, וביום השמיני ימול בשר עורתו, if it's a normal birth, not cesarean, yes, not postponed Brit Milah, you can do it on Shabbat. What gives them the right to make a beautiful job and to cut even
more than the minimum?
More than the minimum. Maybe you have to do only the minimum. Says the Gemara, no. Hamal, while the Moel is actively doing the Milah, you can cut everything. Why? Because the tzitzim she'ena me'akvim, those pieces of skin who are not me'akev, but it's a hidur mitzvah, So while the mitzvah is being done, the mitzvah is being performed by Hidur, and therefore you can do it in Shabbat. Piresh, in many Brit Milah, the Mohel does it, you wrap the baby, half an hour later, the Mohel comes to check. Now he realizes, hey, I didn't cut. Piresh, al tzitzim המעכבים את המילה חוזר, על ציצים שאין מעכבים את המילה אינה חוזר. Here it is. If he stopped and it's Shabbat, look, why do I say Shabbat? Because Rashi says so. Look at the Rashi on the third line from the top. Hamar v'Shabbat. So on Shabbat, where the act of Brit Milah is an act of Chilul Shabbat, which is mutar and mechuyav to do, while you are busy doing the mitzvah, you are doing whatever has to be done, even though it's only a hidur. At Piresh, but you stopped, you're coming back to examine the baby. If you see tzitzim ameakvim, some strips of skin that ameakev, of course you have to do it. She'ina meakvim, eno chozer. So here it's clear that I cannot do just the hidur that involves Chilul Shabbat. Correct?
Do we have any other examples of this?
In a second. So let's hear clearly what, according to Rashi, the Gemara is saying. Why is Rashi throwing the word Hamar b'Shabbat? Because Rashi is telling us if it's a Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, and an hour later you'll come back and you would cut. Why? It doesn't involve any issue.
But about you don't need another bracha, or do you?
No bracha. Later we'll come back to bracha.
How long could you be talking about?
A year, 2 years,
Okay.
half a year.
So a hidur mitzvah, okay.
Later we'll see. But anyway, Rashi is very clearly telling us that on a weekday, the Mohel would cut the hidur, even though the Brit Milah is over. The baby had the Brit Milah, finished. You had it. Let's look at the Rambam now, Sefer Ahava. Rambam Sefer Ahava. By you, it's the same book. If you have the brown, it's the same book. By you, it's not there. Let's see if you have it. Yeah. Look at Rambam Sefer Ahava, Ilchot Milah. Perek Bet. Rambam Perek Bet, Sefer Ahava. Perek Bet Ilchot Milah. It's interesting that the Rambam put Ilchot Brit Milah in Sefer Ahava. Perek Bet, Halacha Dalet. Paul Bayou, it's page 146. You have it, Ilchot Milah? You have to see it here. It's very short. Let's read together the Rambam in Halacha Dalet. Okay, let's do Gimel. See what the Rambam is telling us. Read Gimel. יש ציצין המעכבים את המילה, ויש ציצים שאין מעכבים את המילה. Okay, then it gives us practical examples. Fine. Now let's go to Dalet. It's our Gemara. Remember that Rashi learns that on a Shabbat, says the Rambam, not so. Hamar, לא אומר בשבת. Hamar, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Shabbat, of course. כל זמן שעוסק במילה, while the Mohel is actively performing the מילה, חוזר, בין הציצים שמעכבים, בין הציצים שאין מעכבים. While he's doing it, פירש, on a weekday or Shabbat, על ציצים המעכבים חוזר. If he notices later that he did not cut the necessary ציצים חוזר. על ציצים שאינם מעכבים, אינו חוזר. So here the Rambam and Rashi clearly disagree on a very fundamental concept. Is it possible to perform, to fulfill Hidur mitzvah after the main mitzvah is gone. You realize? According to the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch in Orach Chaim in Yoreh De'ah follows, Hidur is while I'm doing the mitzvah, I'm doing it behidur. If I fulfill the mitzvah already, I'm not obligated. Why am I going to cut now a piece of skin? The baby has the name of the baby is a baby with a brit milah. So this is the Rambam Shita. The
On a
Rambam,
weekday we're not permitted, or we're permitted, but we don't do it.
you permit the same way you permit to cut a piece of skin from your hand.
Permitted.
You're not, that's
obligated.
good. No, but if you do it, you are not doing anything connected to the milah. You can do it still with the pictures. The idea is that the concept of Hidur mitzvah is while you do it nice. But the minute you finish, you finished. Now, Larry was asking, where do you see this concept? This interpretation I just told you is the interpretation of Bet HaLevi. Bet HaLevi is the father of Reb Chaim of Brisk. Based on that, Larry says the Bet HaLevi as follows. If you have a Sukkot, two beautiful etrogim, one is much nicer than the other, but the one that is very nice, you're not sure if it's grafted or not. If it's grafted, basically it's a lemon. The other one is nice, but you're sure it's a etrog. And your intention is to shake both of them. Which one should you take first? Yes. Sukkot. I'm about to say bracha, al netilat lulav. I have both of them in front
You
of
should
me.
take the one for certain, because otherwise may have
But
headset.
then you didn't pick the best, perhaps.
No, but then you may
So
have.
Jeffrey-
yeah, you need to
Jeffrey
take the one that
says,
makes
Jeffrey says, take the one that is definitely kosher. Otherwise, you have a sec. I'll come to it in a minute. But the Brisk, of course, since I'm asking the question, the Chaim, of course, based on the logic we said before, says the opposite. Listen good. If I'm taking the definitely kosher, there's no point of shaking the other one, like shaking a banana, because I fulfill the mitzvah.
You may be shaking banana anyway.
Assuming.
Because if it's basul, it's not right, it's not right.
Assuming that the kosher is definitely kosher, the otherwise is safek. He says the opposite. Take first the one that is beautiful, but maybe a lemon. If you did it nice, you did it perfectly. If not, right away, you pick up the other.
There was no hits.
No headset?
So Jeffrey is asking.
Something that says.
So Jeffrey is asking. It's a
On the first day?
Yeah, I was gonna say the
First
first
day.
day.
First day.
Interruption.
They do it in Briskill today, and they do it in most of the yeshivot. Now, Jeffrey is
He picked up a
asking.
banana between, he doesn't have his egg.
He didn't pick a banana because it was a banana. Take the safek. As far as Hefsek, we saw the Rambam inside, we saw the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says, Jeffrey, that if you have the four species in front of you on the table, you make bracha, netilat lulav, shake only the lulav. Put the lulav down, shake only the etrog. The bag, this is the bag. So even though the point that Jeffrey made is correct, it's Hefsek, but the bracha is not the bracha labat Allah, because the bracha was already on the lulav, and the etrog, and the siman aravot. This is halacha l'maaseh. This is what they did in Bris, which means that the concept of hidur is while you do it. After the mitzvah,
Rabbi, it's not a great comparison because once you do the etrog, the mitzvah is finished. But what we learn when we say with David HaMelech, the milah is an ongoing mitzvah.
Okay, very nice. Eli is saying. Eli is saying. What Eli is saying is the explanation in Rashi and the two. Remember, Rashi disagreed with the Rambam. Rashi says that if the Moel visits the baby a week later and he found pieces of tzitzim she'inam ma'akvim, cut it. But the mitzvah is over. The mitzvah is over. The answer is, Eli says, there is another mitzvah. The mitzvah is to be mahul. Otherwise, how is David HaMelech so happy many years after his Brit Milah took place? The answer is there is a mitzvah to be mahul. So the trace of the mitzvah is still with me. If, right, we said before that if the mitzvah is over, there's no point of making it do by a etrog. The mitzvah is over. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You can say the same thing about a Sefer Torah, mezuzah that are ongoing. You're using them all the time. The mezuzah is always on your home. You know, things that are continuing.
Everyone agrees that by Sefer Torah, there's a point to do it because today when we took the Sefer Torah was a new mitzvah. Yes, the fellow that dedicated the Sefer had the mitzvah, but the mitzvah is an ongoing mitzvah. What happens if you dedicate Sefer Torah? You call it a beautiful Sefer Torah. If the mitzvah is chas v'shalom lost, you have to replace it. I mean, assuming you want to have the mitzvah, yes. The mitzvah is v'katav lo Sefer Torah. It's not to write. The mitzvah is to write and to use it. Gemara says beferush, if you lose it, the mitzvah is gone. So this concept that Eli is the example you give it is a good example. Tefillin, yes. Tefillin are kosher, not perfect. Every day I have a new mitzvah of tefillin. So the Tur and Rashi who are saying that by Brit Milah during the week you'll do it. So this is what the Beit HaLevi himself said. He's the one who comes to David HaMelech. He says they also agree to my principle that the Hidur can take place only while the mitzvah is being done. Nevertheless, he said, even after the Brit, there is an ongoing mitzvah to be mahul. So to beautify this ongoing mitzvah, you can do. So now listen carefully what he's saying now. But the Rambam, this is the Tur, this is Rashi. Rambam clearly doesn't say so, correct?
Yeah.
The Rambam is saying that only while you are doing the milah, only then you can do the milah behidur, even on a weekday. But the minute the mitzvah is over, the baby was given to his mother, the mohel is coming to visit, there's no point of fixing if halachically the actual brit is perfect. Says the Rav of Brisk, of course, the grandson of the Beit HaLevi, very nice. Listen carefully what he's saying. What is the point that Baal HaBayit himself should light all the candles? The same way that we understand it, in the same time of the mitzvah is performed, you have to do it beidur. The man who is doing it should do beidur.
If another family
If my son lit last night, right? And then his two children. How does my son have Hidur mitzvah if they're like it? The Rambam's shita is the same logic that while the mitzvah is taking place, the Hidur should be added or performed. The Rambam, it's a chidush of the Rambam, that the Hidur has to be done by the man who is performing the mitzvah. Who is the man? The Baal HaBayit. Right? The Baal HaBayit. So this is why the Rambam's opinion is that if, remember, the Rambam tells us later that Bnei Sfarad are not doing it, but for Ashkenazim, the Rambam would say, I have to light, or my son has to light, all the menorot of his children, because he's the one that is basically doing that.
Can we make the case that each one in the house also is how you have to do the mitzvah himself, and not necessarily do it, each one has to do his own?
No, but it's not.
So,
okay, but
it's not
very interesting.
This is the Ashkenazim are doing it,
Yeah,
but the Koshi is the Rambam. We're trying to explain that.
How does he come?
You're right, he's right.
Each one in
Yes,
the house
yes.
is
What
madlik.
do you say, Jeffrey?
Who's it? The Mekevet HaMishnah
Kevin Mishnah, right?
explains that since the circumcision is acceptable, it is forbidden to expose a child to further pain.
Well, interesting. You hear what he says? The Merkavah Mishnah says that the logic of the Rambam by Brit Milah is because since the Brit Milah is correct, you cannot expose the baby for unnecessary pain. Fascinating. To merit, we cannot learn from this Rambam to Etrog. This is basically what he's saying. Saying don't learn this Rambam to Etrog. It's only by Brit Milah because it's very.
What's the current practice today, Rabbi? Mohel wants to come back and do additional because he didn't do it fully.
The Shulchan Aruch says you don't do it. I know Shulchan Aruch says to do it. Yes, if you do it, you do it. No, but he explained very nice the Rambam. But you see this logic It's a very interesting logic. Why? Let's say last night there were four candles, yes? You lit 3. 5 minutes later, you realize, hey,
Oh, we didn't do it.
tonight it's 4. Okay, you take the 4th candle, you light it. Should you say bracha on it or not?
Your
Which
original
means-
mitzvah was fulfilled tonight.
So
You did
Jeffrey says,
Even one
very,
candle suffices.
Jeffrey says very good. 1 candle is enough. Who says you make a bracha on Hidur? באמת, I mean, הלכה למעשה, Jeffrey is right, but הלכה למעשה, it's a big מחלוקת בגדולי פוסקים הספרדים והאשכנזים. Why? Because if, look now on the Ashkenazi custom, which is of course the Ramah, my son was lighting last night, so were 3 of his kids. What they do is Hidur, Jeffrey. Why did they make a bracha?
Why did they make it better?
Yeah. According to those
That's what they want in our
Rishonim,
household.
according to those Rishonim, that only that the Hidur is every
Well, but
family.
they're writing a separate menorah, right?
You're right,
So
right.
you want them to do it the right way. If they're writing,
No, but the
what,
question is,
you
נכון,
don't want them
no,
to.
but the הדלקה, good, Jeffrey, good, but the הדלקה of those is באמת only הדלקת הידור. It's only הידור. It's not the חיוב. It's not the חיוב. You realize the Minhag Ashkenaz, which is many Rishonim, that you take the Rambam's opinion that every family member lights, but they light with the bracha. The bracha is only hidur. So listen what Rabbi Akiva Eiger says. You hear, Jeffrey? Says Rabbi Akiva Eiger, when my son light, he had the kavanah not to be yotzei.
Wow.
Here it is. Otherwise, he cannot make a bracha. It's only because the children who are lighting are having in mind not to be yotzei. So it's not a hidur now for him.
Oh, he's doing his thing.
Right? It's a hidur. Is lighting for the first time. Normally the question, the house hasn't been allowed. It's fascinating stuff.
But how could you have no kavanah, like you said, if the mitzvah is on the house, then
Oh.
the good
Then
is
you're not
that?
covered by that.
Right. So Jeffrey is asking a good question. That if the mitzvah is on the house to have a menorah, I have a menorah in the house. I can say I don't need your kavanah. So this is a famous question. You have to say that according to this Rishonim, the mitzvah is an every individual to have in the house. I mean, it's a machlokes. Baruch Hashem, we have so many opinions in the Rishonim, that, but logically, for instance, a kid can read the Torah, yes? The kid is not chayav.
On the bar mitzvah?
Under the mitzvah. The answer is the mitzvah is not, you're not obligated to read, the obligated is to hear.
Yeah.
Who cares if it's a kid or not? The Rambam said that the takana of Kriyat Torah was to hear Torah. If the mitzvah is a mitzvah to have a candle in the house, I live.
Don't you have to have the Torah somebody who could be Yotzeyu?
So this is the point.
Same
Yes,
like the Megillah. It's not
Rambam-
to hear the Megillah.
Rambam
It's
says,
not-
if you look, it's an interesting
can't listen
question.
to Katon.
Look a second, you have the Rambam in front of you. Look at the Rambam in Chod Sefer Torah. Look in Chod. It's really a Chod Tefillah. Look at the Chod Tefillah. Look at Chod Tefillah. Look a second in Chod Tefillah.
Rabbi, by the way, while you're looking that up, I think you could cause sa'ah to the child for his own benefit. We do that all the time.
Okay, no.
Um,
Saying no, of course.
You don't do it, but you do it.
No, he's saying,
No.
he's saying you're doing it for the Hidu. This is what it's really saying. His svara was it's a chidush. It's a chidush.
but you say, is he do it to his own benefit though? I mean, how do we understand he do it? Is it to his benefit? Isn't it? If beautifying it doesn't.
Good, it's a good point, but the way we learned this morning is the Hidur is mitztarev to the actual mitzvah. What Eli is saying is you can look on it that Hidur is a separate mitzvah, so to say.
Oh.
So independent, okay. Look at Rambam, Perek Yud Bet, Milchot Tefillah. Perek Yud Bet. See, it's fascinating that the Rambam includes You're like, don't tell me that you're looking at the Rambam also while you're driving.
He's not answering.
We cannot hear you. You're muted now.
Sorry, no, I'm driving. No, I'm not looking at.
I saw the
you're driving,
Rambam. I
that's
saw you lifting your hand. I was afraid. You know, someone,
No.
You have a Tesla, it drives by itself.
when he says maybe you're driving a Tesla, but we see in Eli's car, it's a BMW. You're right.
I don't even use cruise control, let alone self-driving.
Look a second at the Rambam Melacharet. Moshe, Eli, listen to this. Moshe Rabbeinu תיקן להם לישראל שיהיו קוראים בתורה ברבים בשבת, שני וחמישי בשחרית, כדי שלא ישהו 3 ימים בלא שמיעת. If you מדייק in רבה, לא כתוב בלא לימוד תורה, לא בלא קריאת התורה, בלא שמיעת התורה. The mitzvah is to hear. To hear.
But wouldn't the reader have
You know
to
that
be
Chacham Yitzchak Yosef says, if you drive in the morning to shul here, and you turn a shiur in Torah, record it. You're not doing anything. So you have to say Birkat Torah. Even if you take the opinion of Maran, even if you take the opinion of Maran, that thinking about the Torah is not mutar. Here you are learning with someone. You hear it. This is the mitzvah. Here. בעזרת כן, שיהיו קוראים כן במנחה בכל שבת משווה קרנות. Okay. Now look further in the Rambam. Look a second. Just a second. The Rambam says, who can read here? הלכה י"ז, look at הלכה י"ז, פרק י"ב הלכה י"ז, אישה לא תקרא בציבור, מפני כבוד הציבור. This is גמרא עם מגילה. שולחן ערוך says exactly the same, which means, so Chacham Ben Zion says, Chacham Ben Zion says, let's say you have a Shabbat, only a family Shabbat. You have an old grandmother, she is the family. So if it's only
immediate family,
you can give it I mean, you can do it.
qualified, but out of modesty rules, we don't have.
No,
outside the family.
And not only that, we don't do it anymore because people take it as far as
Oh, they know how to take it far.
people are looking for this type of look, אישה לא תקרא בציבור מפני כבוד הציבור. קטן היודע לקרות ויודע למי מברכים, עולה ממניין הקוראים. Rambam says you can call him up. Call him up.
Call him up to listen or to read.
Keep in mind that in the time of the Rambam, to call up means to read. Everyone that was called up read.
I see. So.
וכן מפטיר עולה מן המניין, שהרי יהיו קוראים
That's why I said your day would grow. Otherwise,
What's the rest of the English, Rabbi?
No.
Katan your daily grow. Yeah, that's why it's something to read.
If the kid understands and he knows how to read, you call him up.
So we have sometimes kids having a bar mitzvah, he's not yet 13, and they ask him not to read, or because it's not. I've seen that happen, right?
No, because what they try to do is, see, here's the rule.
Practice, he's just
When
not.
you deal with the masses of people, don't give any leniency that people might misinterpret and go. As I said many times, they never funeral in Bet Knesset. Shulchan Aruch says special
Don't get
people,
the
they may get
donuts.
an exception.
Yeah,
Totally.
they got carried
Finish,
away.
this is why. Let's go back now. Let's go back now to the Rambam in Chod Chanukah, please. Go back to Sefer Zamanim. Look at the fascinating one word if you want to see what one word in the Rambam does.
What perek?
It's Perek Dalet. Let's see. No, Perek Gimel, Perek Gimel. Perek Gimel, Chod Chanukah. It's all the way in the back. Here, just look all the way in the back.
Which page?
It's Perek Gimel.
In halacha.
Just a second. No, I was right the first time. Perek Dalet halacha hey. Perek Dalet halacha hey. Listen carefully to the Rambam. Analyze the words of the Rambam. Ein madlikim lerot Chanukah kodem shetishka hachama. So first of all, you see from the Rambam, unlike Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says if you have to catch a flight, you can do mipalaga mincha. Let's say today you can light at 4 if you have to catch a flight. Rambam says openly, Ein madlikim lerot Chanukah kodem shetishka hachama, before sunset, you cannot do it. Ela im shkiata, only after sunset. Lo me'achrin velo magdimin. Good. Don't do it earlier, not late. Shachach, please listen carefully now. Look how careful the Rambam is. Shachach or izid, either you forgot or on purpose. Velo yidlik im shkiat hachama. This is most of us. Madlik ve'olech ad shetichle regel min hashuk. You can still light until you see people disappear from the street. V'kama uzman zeh. When I'm telling you, says the Rambam, a little more, kemo chatzi sha'a or yeter. I'm sure you heard a million times from many rabbis that the candles have to be burning chatzi sha'a. This is it. This is the Rambam, chatzi sha'a. And the Rambam, of course, where did the Rambam take it from? From the Rif. The Rif says chatzi sha'a. Good. But then he's adding, oh, yeter. Or more. Oh. See, this is the point. Jeffrey, you have the English translation of the Rambam. How are they translating oh, yeter?
What do you
So
want?
Rani said, or more.
30 minutes or more.
Or more means what? No. He says, I told you to
Actually,
buy,
half an hour or slightly more.
or
than that.
slightly more. You see, this is one interpretation. The interpretation Jeffrey looks at is the interpretation of Bihur Halacha. He says, oh, yeter means slightly more. Okay?
Is that Hidud?
No, he says it's not good, but if you didn't do it in the right time, I'm giving you.
Give me
Gives
some.
you a little bit of leeway.
Right. Other commentators are saying the Rambam should have said כמו חצי שעה ויותר, with a vav. They said it oh yeter. Listen carefully what they say. Listen carefully. The Ritba in Masechet Shabbat says that this time that the Gemara is telling us is based here. Let's look at the Gemara. Go back to the Gemara. Go back to the Gemara Shabbat. Go to page Chaf Aleph. Okay.
We're doing like 20 minutes.
So whatever you do, the way you do it is basically you're saying you're doing it the way קצת הכוכבים, ביוד זה קצת הכוכבים. לוקי דף כ"א עמוד ב'. Look at the Gemara. If you see the toast for the Elo, the Gemara is approximately the quarter. עד שתכלה רגל מן השוק. You see, עד שתכלה רגל מן השוק right there.
Yes.
עד כמה? What is תכלה רגל מן השוק?
Yeah.
Says the Gemara, עד דקליה רגלה דתלמודאי. Look at the Rashi, Rigla de Talmudai. Says Rashi on top, the beginning of the narrow line. Shem, listen good. Shem Uma. This is a label of a type of people. I'm using an example, Taiwanese. Melaktei, Etzim Dakim. Like you see ladies or men collecting, bottles.
Yeah.
They
yeah.
used to collect.
Oh, so they're the last ones in the street.
Oh,
They're the last ones in the street. They
ומתעכבים
clean up, so to speak.
בשוק, and they stay in the open. עד שהולכים בני השוק לבתיהם. They stay in the market until people go home, ומבעירים בבתיהם אור. וכשצריכים לעצים יוצאים וקונים. The same way we have today, some type of people who are collecting cans and bottles. Says that those are people that if you need wood, you buy it by them. So they start to collect, the minute people start to disappear.
Like the stores open late.
So to say.
The convenience stores.
So when those people disappear from the
that's
market,
what
we
it is.
know that we cannot light candles.
Mhm.
Comes the Geonim, says the Ritba, and said that this time was only to the time of the Gemara. Because in the time of the Gemara, it gets dark,
No
the
activity in the
streets
street,
empty
no
out,
lights,
there's no lights.
even moonlight.
So the last people who are still active are those Talmudai. Those Geonim are saying that in our times, depends on each community, each neighborhood. This is our leniency. Ronnie. To like last night, I came home at 10 after 9. I lit 10 after 9. I should have done it much earlier, but as the rabbi said, today you have to light when you sleep. Which leniency did I have? Because in our time, at 9 o'clock at my street, people are still walking. Right? But remember, the Rambam openly disagrees with that. The Rambam says you have half an hour and a little more, or if you take the second interpretation of the Rambam, so or yeter means if you are in neighborhoods that
There's activity.
there is activity in the streets, so this is very famous. You, Jeffrey, the Rav of Brisk used to have a house, and next to it, believe it or not, there was the first movie house in Yerushalayim.
Oh, wow. A lot of activity.
So the second movie, every night you had two movies,
shows,
they had two shows. When the second show was over, hundreds of people came out.
And after
He
that,
made sure that his candle was burned, even if
throughout that time, so that those people.
but you understand, this is based on this interpretation, yes? That the interpretation is based, depends on your neighborhood, yes?
So what did they put in, then you could do it till dawn, we heard this morning, Rabbi said.
Like that, and the reason is because people are driving on Ocean Parkway all the time. If you look outside of your block, whenever you see cars all
So
the
if I
time.
lived in a suburb of Omaha, Nebraska, I'm in a small town, and everything shuts down about 8 o'clock at night.
Correct.
Nobody's around.
You
So
always
that's
say,
it, I don't have that.
correct,
Because my town doesn't have it.
correct. The Geonim are saying that this example of the Gemara of Talmudai, these Taiwanese who are collecting thin wood for their own purpose and to sell, this was the time of Gemara. So the streets disappear. Otherwise, if you go to Arab villages till today, yes, after sunset, life is almost there. If you go to many, many Israeli settlements, right, and security is very tight. This
No
is it
activity.
at a certain point, there is no
I
activity.
used to travel to Korea.
Right.
They had a curfew 9 p.m.
Oh,
If you were in the
really?
street, they would arrest you.
Wow.
You weren't allowed to be in the street unless you were authorized. Everything shut down. Wherever you are, if you were at a restaurant, you were at something, you had to be back to your hotel by 9, they'll arrest you.
It's a perfect example. Perfect example. So basically here what we covered now is, if possible, right? I wait, my wife, okay, tonight I have a wedding, and then you come and do it.
Oh, that's right. Nice.
Right.
Nice.
But otherwise, I would prefer lighting approximately your time, 4:45.
Yeah.
Now that my wife is working, she's coming at 5:30, by 5:30. The streets are full.
You're
But
gonna light before you
according to,
leave?
what?
You're gonna light before you leave the house? Or
Because
no?
unfortunately not, because I have to be there at 4:30.
Where's the
Terrace on the
Oh,
park.
I see. Queens.
So it's exactly an hour.
Yeah.
If I want to be there about 4:15, I have to be 3:15. See, I really had this affair. If I light, let's say 3:15, it's from Paraga Mincha. Or I should like to light, I guess it's 10:30.
But don't you hold also, like, if it's you and your wife, there's no issue?
Okay, but this is it's a shela. If you have a choice, it's between two b'diavad. Have a wonderful day. We'll
Am I
continue
confused? Something we
tomorrow.
heard that if you heard Sign scene, then you wouldn't make it when you're lighting your own. Did I misunderstand that? When we go to shul before I beat, they light the candles and they're hearing the beracha. And I'm saying,
Only if you have the kavanah to be
so I make myself. No, I'm not holding with this.
Correct.
Just, yeah,
Shulchan Aruch. Here, look, Jeffrey. This morning, every morning,
the light. Yeah, the light.
the Baal Tefillah says the Gemara Talo.
Yeah.
באמת, it's better if I'll be Yotzei with him.
Oh, really?
Why? Because ברוב המדרת מלך, any bracha that is being recited, but the Ashkenazic text is לקרוא את העלם, not
Oh,
לגמור.
oh.
This is why I'm not Yotzei with the Al Keriya here.